With the reintroduction of solar fulmination, I've had a ton of comments on Twitter and YouTube comments asking if I tried Caliban's hand. I have. And it's no secret, Caliban is one of my favorite exotics in Destiny 2. I've made multiple videos on it. Other creators like Cross have made videos on my videos of it. So have I messed with it? Yes. And now you can do more than ever. So I'm really excited to talk about it. There's a solar version, but this is version 3.0. We now have prismatic. I'm going to show you both ways to do it, and you and me are about to have some fun.
Claim Zone A. Triple down. Fantastic work. Outstanding. Phenomenal.
I'm loving it in PvE and the Crucible, and honestly, more so in PvE. There are some core things you can do that I want to show you, but there are combos to try to get. There's artifact mods, armor mods, fragments, aspects, a ton of stuff to add in. And what makes Caliban better than ever is solar fulmination. It's wild. Your ignitions do increased damage to an increased radius. It was buffed from the previous version. It adds a second detonation dealing 190 damage, that's 25% more than the 750 base ignition, and a big deal, we're going to revisit it later, a huge difference. On top, it also interacts with the solar kit's Ember of Char and Ember of Ashes, because both detonations deal 60 times Scorch. Remember, you need 100 for an ignition, so when you throw it into a group, if anything survives, it's going to chain ignite. So basically, once the initial ignition goes off, it keeps throwing stacks and bouncing stacks between targets. The stacks equal over 100 Scorch, so it bounces it until there's no targets to bounce off of, like right here. So we have these two versions that are similar, but very different. With Prismatic, we have Spirit of Caliban. Simply, powered melee final blows trigger an ignition. And then on the Caliban exotic itself, we have Roast 'em. Your proximity knife scorches targets it damages with this explosion, or ignites targets on a final blow. After throwing the proximity knife, you get increased melee regen until the knife explodes, so if it misses something and it's just on the ground, you get melee regen back. Very different with how they play and perform. And the things you can do when comparing the solar sub, the prismatic sub. Prismatic, it's a whole different beast with new capabilities, new synergies. So I'm going to start with prismatic. All you need is a cloak with Spirit of Caliban. There's going to be pairing perks, so I'm going to talk about those. But just the core of it, all you need is Spirit of Caliban. This is going to be a pretty long video because I really want to talk about this and build it out. As you saw, any powered melee final blow triggers an ignition. With solar fulmination, the ignitions do increased damage and an increased radius. That's what's making this pop off. So on Prismatic, just to start off, must have Facet of Ruin. It increases the area of effect of your solar ignitions. So here's how I have it set up with just base Caliban. It pairs perfectly with Threaded Spike. The rope dart, it tracks, it severs. You can catch the dart and refund melee energy, and a lot of times you can fully refund it. So for the aspects, Stylus Executioner and Gunpowder Gamble. With the Gamble, defeat targets with abilities, elemental debuff damage, or solar weapons to charge up the solar explosive. And you shoot it midair to cause an ignition. Also pairs with solar fulmination. Stylus Executioner, defeat a target affected by an elemental debuff, grants invisibility. So if you're using a Scorch weapon, I'm using a Baron action. Defeating Scorch targets, you go invisible. The dart itself, it severs. So when it downs enemies, you immediately go invisible. It's great. I use a Swarm Grenade, Spike, Gambler's Dodge, so I can get my melee when I dodge near an enemy. For the fragments, Devotion. Defeating targets afflicted with stasis or strand debuffs grants bonus light transcendence energy. So the dart severs, so you're going to get a lot from this. Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage gives you melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage, grenade energy. Facet of Ruin, we talked about that. For the AoE ignition. Blessing, also very important. Melee final blows immediately start health regen. While Transcendent, melee final blows grant health regen to you and your allies. Then Purpose. Picking up an Orb of Power grants you Amplified, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, Restoration, and Overshield, all based on the type of damage of your super. So I'm using Silk Strike, so I want Woven Mail. Because with the artifact, pick up an Orb, I become Radiant, I become Amplified, and then with Shield Crush, while I have Woven Mail, my melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. While I'm Amplified or Radiant, the grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. Very synergistic, and I use that last one, Shield Crush, if I'm not using Whisper or a Solar Sniper to pair with Sniper's Meditation. I run Aberrant Action with Pugilist Incandescent. That works with Stylus Executioner on the Scorched targets. Gets a lot of melee energy back, especially for the dart when I need it. I run a Dragon's Breath because it has ignition. Solar Fulmination works with that. Or if you're using a sniper with the incendiary rounds, precision hit scorched targets, that ignition that you spawn from the sniper is also the big AoE. And then I have a hand cannon, or you can run like a Kvostov with Pugilist as well. Just double up your primary with Pugilist. Some things about the armor mods. Hands-on. Bonus super on melee kills. The dart handles it. You're going to get a lot. And the siphon, whatever weapon you want, I have it for solar, for my rocket sidearm. Then on the arms, heavy-handed. Your powered melee final blows create an orb of power. So these orbs, you're going to be throwing out a lot of spikes. Pick them up, you get Woven Mail, you get Radiant, you get Amplified. With the artifact perk, your grenade and melee are recharging faster because of Shield Crush. And that's just with Caliban. You're working off that dart, refunding it, or getting it very, very fast. It's going to get you multiple kills and a gamble every time. And every time you go invisible because of Stylus Executioner, and every time you get health regen due to the fragment. So when things get sticky or you're low health, throughout the dart, it gets a melee final blow. You go invisible, you immediately start health regen. And what's nice about the dart is you can just throw it at a yellow bar. You know it's not going to down them, but it will seek and find different enemies and adds. Once it downs them, you're going to go invisible, get the health regen. So throw the dart, get the gamble, get orbs. And the orbs are from the weapon or the melee finals. You're also getting super energy. Very, very good. If there's enough enemies, when you catch it, you get it right back. Fully refunded dart. If not, you're going to get some energy, and from there, with pugilist weapons, extra energy from the artifact, the fragments, whatever. All of the abilities fly. You're going to get the melee back in no time. And when it comes to higher content, beefier enemies, what's beautiful about Threaded Spike is you can throw it into a group, and it's kind of a win-win. Because if you don't down a single enemy, and if there's a lot of them, it's going to get fully refunded. You have it back, so you can just throw it again. And if it doesn't down anything, you can catch it, and then you can do it again. But regardless, if there's no downs, they're all severed. They do 40% less damage. And you can throw a gamble if you want, like I do right here. But you can just throw the dart again and again. Just catch it over and over. But that's just a base with the dart. It's awesome with Caliban right now because of Fulmination. And then you can start adding in the other perk. What I was looking for specifically was Spirit of Verity. Weapon final blows with the damage type matching grenade grants a stacking grenade damage bonus. So with the gamble at base, it deals 35,438. This is just to show the damage. And with death throws times 5 max, it deals 100% more or 2 times damage. It goes to 70,875. It's instant. You throw the dart, you get the gamble. It's getting you multiple kills. There's all the things that I talked about earlier. I'm using the swarm grenade, so solar. I'm using this pugilist sidearm. It's mowing through things. Get to times 5 in no time. Massive add clear combination. And again, sometimes the dart will get sent out and it just starts going crazy routes, hitting everything around, like 40 meters away, far away. And then you also have this big damage grenade right after that. I love it. It was one of the main ones I wanted to look for this loop. The Caliban Fulmination gets easy gambles, and then you have the big gamble to throw. And also, I don't want to forget, while you're prismatic, just this base loop of Caliban Spike, you throw a lot, and I mean a lot out there, especially if you catch it. It's refunded instantly. So there's a lot to do with Threaded Spike, that little seeking missile for Caliban with Fulmination. But you can also look for pairings for Caliban with like Syntheseps, then of course Liars, which is the next one I want to talk about. But before I do that, let's talk about PvP Threaded Spike Caliban. It's great, it's simple. The only thing that you want is Caliban on the cloak, and then the fragment that adds AoE to your explosions, Facet of Ruin. From there, just a weapon to prime them with. I chose a 140 hand cannon. It could be a 2-burst pulse, could be a regular pulse like a 450, a 390, whatever you want. Enough to get them low enough, and when you do that, it's really cool because it explodes the first target. Enemies around are going to get the ignition damage, but also the dart damage, because the dart has hit them already because it's seeked them out, or it's getting ready to. And once you throw it, you can catch it for refunded energy. It's really, really good. And one big difference between Prismatic and the Solar Kit is the accuracy that you have with this dart when it comes to distance. Like in these clips, I get 2 shots off, they're fairly far away, I can throw out the rope. A knife would be a lot more difficult, but this is almost automatic because of the aim assist of this dart. So in total, a lot further away you can do the Caliban combo with a lot more precision because of this rope. And what's so cool and kind of wild about this one is just like in PvE, since it seeks, like right here, I know that this enemy in the corner took damage, they're regenning health, and they keep taking damage as the fight goes on. I see another enemy come up, I can just throw the dart at them because I know it's going to find that enemy that's behind cover. It seeks them out, it gets the final on them, cause them to explode, and they're not in sight. So that's what's really cool about this. So that's another thing you can do. If you know an enemy is weak behind cover, say you get a couple shots, they dip out, but more enemies come, you can just throw the dart at them, the dart's going to seek them out, and they'll explode. Not in sight, it's pretty good. And when you do that, it chains the ignition out, hitting the targets that kind of took their place. Pretty wild. And I wanted to focus on the threaded dart Fulmination mostly for this video because it's sweet. A lot of safety at a distance. Throw the dart, catch it, throw the dart, catch it. Go invis, get a lot of buffs. Crazy ad clear. And I believe that you get a lot more with Verities. You have that massive follow-up gunpowder to go with the rest of your kit. You're super, you're heavy, and a lot more. I encourage you to try it. But another one is Combination Blow. One that a lot are looking for is the Caliban Liars combination or Caliban Synthos. And for this, you pair Winter's Shroud. When you dodge, you apply slow, and then Stylus Executioner. When you down a debuff target, you go invisible. Then your next melee weakens. So when you dodge and slow, that counts as a debuff. You down them, you go invisible. Combination Blow, the final blows fully refund the dodge and restore a small amount of health. So it's paired with basically the same fragments. You want Ruin for the big AoE. You want your melee final blows to grant health regen on top. So you get the health regen of Blessing, melee final blows start health regen, and also the small bit of health that Combination Blow gives. And you have all the little things in between that we've talked about. Dodge, slow, melee them. The melee grabs health regen, causes them to explode. That explosion is Fulmination with Ruin. Then cross counter comes out, next melee weakens. You can pair it with a 1-2 punch shotgun, whatever you want. You can also make orbs drop from those melees. That way you're even more healthy or regen faster. It is very complete, and it works so well right now because of Solar Fulmination. You can put on Shadow Shot, because with that artifact perk, you have Avoid Super, so when you pick up an orb, you're going to get a little bit of an overshield. There's a ton of play with this thing. But Caliban Fulmination is what's making a lot of these things just go off. They're so good. And even if you don't have the Liars, like I said, you could pair it with Synthos. Maybe it's non-synergistic, like maybe Coyote. Sure, it can work, but not ideal for what you want to do with Caliban. You can still do a lot of this with just Caliban Spike or Caliban Combination Blow with Fulmination. So the Prismatic Caliban runs great through the Threaded Spike, runs great through Combination Blow, and from there, even with Synthos as an option too, Liars, Verity have a ton of play working with the kit. It's improved ad clear, improves a lot of regen. It does a lot, so definitely try it with Solar Fulmination. And when it comes to the Solar subclass, it's a lot different. As far as the explosions, it's better, a ton better. I'll run On Your Mark, knock them down, get a final blow with your melee, you get the knife back, and note, that's why Threaded Spike is so good with Prismatic, because it somewhat simulates this. I run Gambler's Dodge, Healing Grenade, and for the Fragment's Wonder, rapidly defeating multiple targets with Solar Ignitions generates Orbs of Power. Torches, powered melee attacks grant you and nearby allies Radiant. And honestly, if you're creating orbs, you can use the Artifact mod for that. Char, your Solar Ignition spreads Scorch to affected targets. Eruption, your Solar Ignitions have a greater area of effect. Ashes, you apply more Scorch stacks to targets. And all of this is with Solar Fulmination. Your Ignitions do increased damage in an increased radius. It is Ignition the build. Because with those Ignitions, with Gunslinger, you drop orbs on collaterals, massive area of effect, they scorch more, they spread Scorch when they ignite. The knife itself, a key to all this, it applies Scorch too. And in the start of the video, I talked about the update to Solar Fulmination with how it interacts with Char and Ashes, the chain ignitions, they bounce. That's with this. That's using Caliban on the Solar kit. If you get this in a group, it will do that. All it takes is one ignition. It pretty much stays the same as far as your armor mods, except for on the arms, I do have Focusing Strike, so when the powered melee attack gets hits, it grants class ability energy. That way I can use that to dodge next to targets to get my knife back. And a special note, if you're using a sniper, you add in Sniper's Meditation, because on True Solar with incendiary rifle rounds, Whisper's S tier for it. It is so good. Or something like Uzume right here, this 4th time precision instrument. As you're sniping and you get that ignition from these, all of that is going off. That ignition is spreading Scorch. It's dropping orbs. The Scorch has more stacks. All of it that's on your fragments. The same goes with Dragon's Breath, Solar Fulmination. So that's just in general, non-Hunter too, just at base on the Solar kit. Legitimately, Caliban Hunter is powerful in PvE, because you just walk into rooms, jump around, and watch it all blow up. The knife's being refunded. The chain reactions now are sweet. You do want an incandescent weapon, and again, I use the new Rocket Solar Sidearm, but your favorite can slip right in. We've had a bunch lately, and from the past. Nullify, Luna's Howl, Abyss Defiant, Perfect Pitch, Time-Worn Wayfarer, Amit, Summoner, take your pick. So you applying Scorch with these weapons, your fragments play into that too. And with this mod back, now is the time to try it. Now is the time to have fun with it, to abuse it. Not much really has changed on the Solar kit with Fulmination, aside that it is better. It's actually better than before because of how they changed the artifact mod. It's really good. Crucible-wise, the same thing. It's back, better than ever. Even though abilities are slow, you can get the knife back because of the aspect. You do things like double distribution or double or triple outreach, reducing the melee cooldown when you use your class ability to get back the knife faster. And since the abilities are a little bit slower, you do want your strength stat to be a little bit higher, 6 and above. You still have the Calibombo combo, which is with the Incendiary Grenade. The Incendiary applies a ton of Scorch, like 90 stacks with Ashes. You throw the grenade first, then the knife, profit. It is guaranteed if those things hit. And I haven't tried it too much, but you can try the Swarm Grenade. It also applies Scorch. Incendiary is the way to go, though. But other than that, you're looking for a weapon to prime and throw, just like before, like with a 140 hand cannon or a pulse. But the key difference is they are not the same. They do a similar thing, but they're not the same. The spike can track better. You can do it, throw it at a further distance, connect with it, and it can get collaterals. But the knife version has that chain reaction like PvE, much wider, and it just keeps throwing Scorch out until it can't. We have that, and you get the knife right back. You can down one enemy with a knife, get an explosion, then go right back and do it again. You can't really do that with prismatic. Both are really fun, though, and both can make exciting plays. This has been one of my favorite ways to play Destiny 2. It is, because if I were doing the same thing match after match in the Crucible, I don't know what I'd do with myself. That sounds incredibly boring to me. And in PvE, when the artifact can enhance something, it's really fun to play with. And that's exactly what Solar Fulmination does. And that's why I wanted to make this. Talk about what it's doing now, the things it does with Prismatic, all the cool little things. And there's a ton more. So start searching for just Caliban and then a pairing perk with it. And I wanted to go over the things that it can do again with the Solar Kit. Some of my favorite times in Destiny 2 is with this artifact perk. I'm sad to see it go away when it does, but it's here and now's the time. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about Solar Fulmination down below and Caliban, whether it be with Prismatic or the Solar Kit. Have you used it lately? If you haven't, you should. Let's talk about it down below. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.